And now I'll sell my stallion if you want me to. And really rather walk with you. The colors all stood in a line.
Hey folks, welcome back. Psych here. Welcome to another round of what's been added to the shelves since last time. And this time I got 6 LPs I'm going to share off, 5 of which are from the local shop here. Surprisingly, I'll tell you what, man, I don't know who this enigmatic figure is here in town, but they've been dropping off the Psych load. Just been dumping off all the Psych at this place. And some of which, some of these LPs I already have, thankfully, but if I didn't, I'd be grabbing from the savings account. Just being silly, but no, but there's seriously some heavy hitters in here. A couple, stuff that you would just never typically see around the region unless you're visiting some of these shops. So if you're ever in the Lincoln area and you want to check out vintage vinyl, even the new arrivals are looking pretty tasty themselves, and no one's even picking up the food LP yet, the second original copy at the shop. So I don't know, it's kind of a blessing, kind of a curse. I'd like to have some Psych adjacent friends here in town to, collaborate with. I'm the only lone wolf out here, so that's also kind of a good thing, I guess. Don't have any competition, or at least it seems that way. But so yeah, 5 LPs from the shop, and these are all originals. And let's just kick it off here with a Vertigo Press. Picked up on this. This is the US press of Pato. They're on the US Vertigo label. I had no idea it had a US press. I always assumed it was like UK, Germany, all the European countries. And this came out in 1970. Same illustrator that did the May Blitz cover. You can kind of tell just by how kind of scraggly it looks. And then I never even noticed this up until since owning it now. You can see Pato drawn out on the teeth. Would have never noticed that. It's one of those things you just can't see online. Having a personal physical copy, it just pops out a little more. So yeah, Mike Pato, he passed away really young. I think he was like in his 30s. I think he had leukemia is what I read. Does the vocals on here. He's kind of got this kind of white boy, kind of soulful delivery. A little bit of grit, kind of a sandy kind of voice is the way I described it. Someone else notable here, Ollie Housel. He played with the Ruddles later on. And then I forget all the other connections with the other members, but I know Mike was also in some later incarnation of Spooky Tooth, and I think Time Box. Is that right? Very cool to see this pop in the shop. I don't have too many, Vertigo pressings. Some of them I've sold in the past. But, can't go wrong there. Swirly. Very clean copy. I think they also did have a few albums after this one, like maybe 2 or 3 more. But honestly, musically, this is not, I do like this one, but I wouldn't really put it in my top 10 Vertigo releases. It's definitely grown on me, especially since owning it now. Got a little more familiar with it. It's kind of like, it's progressive rock, but it's got this kind of blues undercurrents kind of moving throughout in sort of a hard rock kind of vein. But it's very slow burning for the most part, especially in the beginning track, The Man. But then it kind of ramps up, and some of the guitar solos are definitely worth checking out, especially on the track Hold Me Back, which also has some pretty problematic lyrics that don't really age that well. Find out for yourself, but listener beware. But my other favorite track, Red Glow, also really rocks out, and then Moneybag. It's got some great sort of jazz licks in there. It's also got a bit of a jazzy flavor to it. Yeah, so like I said, kind of a grower, but I wouldn't consider this like an all-time classic as far as Vertigo is concerned. definitely very suitable for the label, kind of what their viewpoint was as far as the rock scenes at the time. Because otherwise, you know, listening to it now, it seems like I've heard a lot of stuff like this already, so it's kind of got a traditional sound to it. So anyways, happy to own it. And then we'll move on to somewhat of a similar type of group here. Also one that I did not expect to have a US press on Harvest. And it is a little bit battered. Speaking of battered, the Battered Ornaments with Mantelpiece. It's kind of one of those obscure records you just never see, man. So I had to pick up on this. This is from '69. And it's also somewhat in a similar vein, very much coming from a progressive rock kind of light. But from what I recall, when I first bought this is kind of when I first heard it, it kind of, again, had this kind of lingering, like I was kind of waiting for something to really pick up. And then it took about halfway through side 2 when we finally reached it with Smoke Rings. That's kind of where I wish the album kind of went, towards this sort of Canterbury style. You know, sort of reminds me of Soft Machine a little bit. The way it's very frantic and got these kind of ominous vocals happening. Kind of a rickety, kind of raggedy kind of sound, which did grow on me a little bit more the more I listened to it. But honestly, this was a little more difficult for me to get into than the Pato. But I do know a lot of people are looking for this, and I really don't understand that. But maybe I'm just the wrong listener. But anyways, this is kind of a cool Harvest sleeve here. Harvest Serial. Featuring Pink Floyd, Third Ear Band, Edgar Broughton Band, Kevin Ayers, Roy Harper, and then Chris Spedding's Battered Ornaments. It says on the Harvest. That's when they must have kicked Mr. Pete Brown out of the group, because he was actually featured on here doing the vocals, but they actually had to replace the vocals due to his absence. I'm not sure what that was all about. I just read that it was he was absent during the sessions. It's not the best copy in the world, I mean, especially with all the ring wear, but even the vinyl copy, it's very playable. Not much surface noise, but just looking at it, you would think it would play kind of rough, but for that reason only, I got this on the cheaper side, so I probably wouldn't pay any more for what this is actually going for. So is this one that I could recommend to some of you guys out there? I think so. And I also played this on my comeback video. You might have caught wind of that. Pete Brown, he also wrote a lot of tracks for Cream, notably. He's kind of known for that. And then there's a record before this too he was featured on, a little more, isn't that a little more guitar oriented? Might be. I'm not as familiar with that, so got that one. And then kind of sticking close to somewhat of a progressive rock kind of sound. This is a little more friendly to the ears. This is a US group, One and Done. This has actually been on the radar for quite some time. This is a Bead Game, their album Welcome. This came out in 1970 as well. It's on the Avco Embassy label, which features a lot of those one and done kind of groups. This is in really good shape, as you can tell. I mean, the fellow that had this took really good care of it. No ring wear. I think it's got a little bit of splitting trying to happen, but there's some rub seams. Overall, it just really pops. You know, the cover really does. And it's interesting too, they also have the same font as the band Bread around this time. So one of the more notable members on here as well, Jim Hodder, does the drums. You might know that name from Steely Dan, who would later be in that phase of the group, like in the mid-70s, I think. Great combination of both progressive first, and then I would say Psych is kind of like the aftertaste. You know, it's still got some of those trippy production elements happening. You got some cool flanging, phasing effects, but also some really rippling guitar solos here are worth mentioning. So you got tracks like Punch and Judy, Lady might be a favorite of mine, Wax Circus, and yeah, the last track, Slipping, is also a really good ripping track, you know, nice concluding track to it. So lots to investigate here. I think it runs about 40 minutes, which is kind of nice to see, or you know, for a record of this type. You know, oftentimes they kind of clock in at about half an hour long. Is it the strongest on the label? It's definitely up there, I would say. I prefer this one over the Liquid Smoke album. I'm not really a big fan of that one. It's got a cool cover, cool name, Liquid Smoke. But I just have a hard time getting into that one. I've seen a copy before, but it was pretty trashed. Yeah, Bead Game, welcome. From the East Coast. Yeah, it was recorded around NYC area. But they're considered a Bosstown band in the Boston region. Now this is the one that I did not pick up from the shop. This is one that I had in my save searches on eBay for a long time. It's kind of one of those cases where it's not terribly expensive, but it's just a matter of when's a copy going to pop up next. Because it seems like it took a long time for the right copy to come along, condition-wise and price-wise. And I spotted this. I refreshed the page one day and got this one in the shrink, even though it's kind of fallen apart, but still kept it on. This is the band Louie and the Lovers with their album Rise. It's on the Epic label. A pretty slept-on title, I must say, and this is not really what you could consider psychedelic anyway, but it's definitely of that time period, the way they mixed albums back in the day, and sort of that, 16-track, 4-track kind of thing. And I don't think this got promoted at all. I mean, it just kind of really sank without a trace, and it seems like copies of this just rarely pop up anymore, but when they do, they're generally around 20, 40 bucks. Considering condition, and this was right at my disposal for 20 bucks. So it was a great grab there. Really clean disc. I don't know if I've ever seen any promo copies out there. But a nice yellow Epic there. And so this group, they formed out of like, I don't want to get the town wrong, but maybe it says here on the back. Looks like it says Salinas, California. Louie and the Lovers. So these guys were basically right out of high school. And Doug Sam, is that right? Yeah. Doug Sam and his wife discovered this group when they were playing at some high school auditorium, I think, and signed them up on the spot. And I think they had just graduated high school and they were, getting this whole thing together in the studio. I think they recorded it in San Francisco, laid down a bunch of different sessions, which eventually became the Rise album. There was a compilation out there on CD that came out years later. Generally, it's just kind of like, with Doug Sam producing this, it's got kind of a Tex-Mex sort of, I wouldn't say it's got a lot of Latin flavor, but it's definitely in there. It's just a little hidden, but it's primarily kind of rootsy rock, folk rock. Got a lot of like 12-string kind of jangly sounds. A lot of different moods happening. You got some more kind of upbeat and some kind of downer folk kind of things. Merging into some like swampy kind of rock, like CCR style with Sitting by a River. The title track Rise almost has some like pre-power pop moves. Good harmonies. And they also do a cover of If the Night, the second to the last track. The Kaleidoscope song from their Side Trips record. And then the very last track, It's the Morning. Some really good, like, kind of downer folk pop. I don't even know what you would call it, but I can't see it being a hit, but I love the track, man. It's got this kind of wooziness, kind of like kind of just downer, like depressing folk rock, but done right, man. The last two tracks, If the Night, It's the Morning, probably my favorites off of here. So yeah, this shrink's kind of coming off a little bit, but anyways, Louie and the Lovers, definitely one to investigate. Don't expect any, acid rock or any freakouts like that. It's got the moves, man. And don't let the CCR, tag scare you away like it probably would me, but okay, last two here. I bought this one on the same day as another one we'll share down the road, but this is also a long time want. Never see this one in person, even though it is, again, kind of relatively cheap like the last one. And this one did not make it onto the MGM list, but it was definitely talked about. And I always make the claim that, I've heard a lot of great US releases concerning, the broad streak of Psych out there, but this is one that I was a little fuzzy on, especially the second half. And it's the group Kangaroo on MGM. Again, a little bit of a Bosstown scene, given that they were from the Boston area. One and Done, and this one features Barbara Keith, who had a couple solo records, kind of more in the folk vein, folk singer-songwriter. And then who's the other one? N.D. Smart II on drums. He played in a lot of great groups back in the day, like the Remains, Mountain, several other bands that I can't think of right now, but he was definitely around. Bo Grumpus, definitely a large player as far as the East Coast is concerned, featured on here. And I really love this, man. This one hit way better than in the past than I expected. The way it opens up, it's very, like I said online, it has like this kind of neurotic kind of feel to it. Like they're coming from a folk rock perspective, kind of doing the airplane thing. But some of the songs are really ramped up like they're on speed or something. Like, I love it, especially the first track. Such a long time. You're Trying to Be a Woman. And then the third track might be my favorite. It's kind of the fan favorite. Daydream Stallion. That is a winner. And then you got a song called Frog Gigging, which I'm not going to retell the story, but if you know, you know. I don't know, I'm just being silly. The second side, you know, kind of slumps a little bit. Maybe that's why I don't remember it as much, but overall, some great tracks on here. Again, kind of come from that folk rock vein. Pretty simple, nice harmonies. They kind of remind me in a way of like the Peanut Butter Conspiracy, a little more than the Airplane, I'd say. You know, they got a little bit of that crispy, sizzling fuzz guitar in some spots. So a little bit like the second Peanut Butter Conspiracy. So there you have it. Kangaroo. Then the final one here, this is the one that I probably should have got a little more familiar with it before I started recording, but I know a little bit about their back history. And this is one that I still remember Matt Sands with the Psychedelic Experience record run. Classic videos, man. Classic times. Miss those days. Tontos Expanding Headband. This one reminds me of Matt Sands a little bit because he was not a fan of this, and I kind of find it funny more than anything. Zero Time. It's come out like, what, 71? Around there? Yeah. And I understand his resentment a little bit because I'm kind of on board with you, Matt. Or at least at that time. But even to this day, yeah, this one hit a little more dry than I thought it would. I thought it was going to be a little more mind-expanding. But I do appreciate where they kind of inspired different artists, because they were definitely a behind-the-scenes kind of collaboration here with rigging up Stevie Wonder's synthesizers and Moogs. Gil Scott-Heron had a little bit of help from this group here. The two members, right? It is a two-man band, right? I don't even know. I think it is, though. I think it's just mostly the two guys here. My favorite track out of all of them, River Song. It's got like the talk box, and it has this kind of like space age pop gone Eastern kind of feel to it. And that, probably the most trippy element for me, at least. Cool artwork, cool name, Tontos Expanding Headband. Is it going to last, though, in the collection is the question. I don't know just yet. Maybe not for too long, but I'm going to spend a little more time with it. You got a track called Jet Sex. Yeah, all right. So yeah, here's a shot of the label here. Embryo. I think it's through Atlantic Records. And I think there's a repress of this with a different cover, if my mind remembers correctly. So I do appreciate their inspiration to other artists back in the day, helping them out, kind of rigging their systems. And it definitely, in some ways, I think it was a little bit ahead of the times. It was definitely that Moog-exploitation scene that was happening, you know, with stuff like Wendy Carlos and Ruth White. That was the name I was trying to think of. Anyways, that about wraps it up for this segment. And I still got more to share. And again, probably a different variety. And I do have one sitting at the shop waiting for me that I'm very eager to share as well. And of course, my grail, My Grail came in the mail. Grail mail. All the way from Greece. So I can't wait to share that one off. It's actually sitting behind this record here. Let's see if you can guess which one it is. That's all you get. Anyways, take care. We'll see you soon.